Google is currently in the process of testing search generative experience responses. A search generative experience, or SGE response, is where Google uses generative AI to create some type of text in response to the user's search query. So in this example, I Googled what is generative AI, and Google generated a response that answers my question. And the concern is that these SGE responses could deter clicks, and it could deter clicks for a few different reasons. For starters, there's just not that many links included in the generative response, right? I only have a couple links that are up by default here on this particular response. Now I can expand these and see other links, but there's still just not that many links included, so there's just not that much to click on. But the other concern, and I'd say the bigger concern, is that there's a lot of text provided in this SGE response. And by providing so much text, the question becomes, will people actually click on any of those websites or not? Will people need to click or not? Because maybe this text answers the question that I've asked in a way that satisfies my particular need for typing this into Google. And I will read this and say, oh, okay, I've got everything I need. I don't need to go anywhere else. I don't need to look at any websites. And if that's the case, then all of a sudden, I'm not going to be clicking to a website that could really impact a lot of people's website traffic from organic search. The other concern is that the generative response, the SGE response, might just be really big. And if it's that big, that's going to push traditional results further down the page. So people aren't even going to see those traditional results, and they probably aren't going to click on those traditional results. And of course, I'm on a desktop screen here as I'm showing this in this video, but on mobile, this could take up even more of the screen and push traditional results even further down the page, further deterring clicks. So the question that's really been top of my mind is, how many clicks are we talking about? How many clicks could be lost when we're looking at SGE rolling out? So to find out, at Elementive, we conducted a study with 197 participants, showed them a bunch of different SGE responses similar to this one, and asked them whether or not they would click. You can check out the full study at elementive.com/SGE-clicks, but I want to go over a few of the main points with you here in this video. So starting right off, the top question is, will people click on links contained in SGE responses? And in our study, we found that 58% of people said they would still click on a link contained in the SGE response. 22% of people said they might click, but they weren't sure. And then 20% of people said they saw no reason to click on any of the links contained in the SGE response. So right away, we have a problem here. Somewhere between 20 to 42% of clicks are at risk of being lost as SGE rolls out. And this is early days. As SGE rolls out, people aren't that familiar with it. People don't know exactly what it is. Google is still experimenting with how they're going to show things in SGE, how much they're going to show in SGE, how they're going to show links in SGE responses. And so as things progress, this could definitely change. But already, even in these early days, we're talking about up to 42% of traffic that could potentially be lost on a search query when somebody sees an SGE response to that query. But the thing is, not all search queries are the same. There's different kinds of search queries that people conduct. One of the ways of grouping those different search queries is by looking at search intent. So there's different kinds of intents behind the search, or different motivations behind the search. One of those intentions is transactional intent. Transactional meaning people are ready to purchase a product. They're typing something into Google where they're trying to find a product to buy right now, or trying to find a service to purchase right then and there. And in transactional search, 62% of people will still click. And that's not surprising. You typically have to go to the website to complete that transaction. But that's only 62% of people. We're still saying 17% of people saw no reason to click on a link in a transactional result. 21% of people weren't sure if they needed to click or not. So even though this had the higher percentage of how many people said they would still click on an SGE link, there's still a lot of people who saw no reason to click either. So even here with transactional, there's some reason to think that some of the traffic that you're currently getting from organic search could be at risk. Then we can look at commercial intent. Commercial intent means people are researching a product that they wish to purchase or a service that they're thinking about buying. So this is things like looking for reviews and so on. And in this case, about 57% of people said they would still click. 20% of people saw no reason to click. 23% of people said, well, maybe I'll click, but they weren't sure. So there's still about 43% of clicks that may be lost here with commercial queries. But the biggest bucket of queries for pretty much every website is informational queries. Informational is people looking for just kind of general information. They're doing some type of research around a topic. They're not necessarily ready to purchase just yet. These might be more top of the funnel types of queries. And some studies have found that informational queries account for around 80% of all search queries. Those are older studies, but still that tends to play out with what I've seen and looking at search queries that are driving traffic to websites. It's the most number of queries bringing traffic to websites. So informational queries is what we really want to pay attention to as we think about how this is going to affect the future of SEO. And in this case, 56% of people said they will click. So that's pretty similar to commercial, but 28% of people saw no reason to click a link in an informational result, and 16% of people weren't sure. So we see a lot of potential loss here. 28% of people saying they wouldn't click at all. And again, that's early days as people become more familiar with SGE, as they grow more comfortable with generative AI providing those responses. This slice of the pie, that might grow, and might grow in a really concerning way. The other way to think about the different search queries and different ways of grouping them is by topic. So we looked at 3 different topics: software, finance, and travel. And you can see there's some pretty significant differences in how clicks will be playing out with SGE responses to those different search queries. So in software-related SGE responses, only 51% of people saw a reason to click. 49% of people either said they wouldn't click at all or weren't sure if they would click. And that's a pretty significant drop in the number of people who would click, and could mean that there's a lot more traffic to be lost in software-related queries. Finance and travel both had more people saying they would click than other people did in the software-related queries that they were looking at the SGE responses for. Now, this isn't definitive, right? We didn't look at every search query in software or finance or travel, or even tons and tons of them where we could draw really definitive conclusions that travel is somehow more safe than software, or finance is more safe than software for SGE rolling out. Rather, the interpretation here and the conclusion to draw is that there are just differences based on the topic. And so different topics will be affected in different ways as SGE rolls out. And what that really means is you need to look at your own search queries, and you need to understand how this is going to play out in the topics that you're currently targeting. If you are targeting software, maybe there's more traffic to be lost than if you're targeting finance or travel related queries. But also, this could just be a subject of the particular queries we picked within these topics. So your specific search queries may differ. So you really need to go through and figure out whether or not people will click on SGE responses to search queries that are currently driving traffic to your website. More than anything, you need to figure out if your website even shows up in those SGE responses or not. Now, in the study, we looked at some other things: whether or not people trusted SGE results, whether or not people thought the SGE results provide enough details and context and what that might mean for clicks, whether or not people would ask follow-up questions of the generative response and try and get more information from the generative response and what that means for clicks. So you can check out the full study at elementive.com/SGE clicks. If you have any questions about this study or would like to know some more details, please feel free to email me. My email address is matthew@elementive.com. You can also reach out to me if you'd like help doing this type of assessment for your website and looking at your search queries and seeing how SGE will affect your website. Once again, my email address is matthew@elementive.com. If you have any questions or would like to provide any feedback about this study, if you want to check out this study, that's at elementive.com/SGE-clicks.